Hi everyone in English 1301, it's Dr. E and I'm here with your week 15 instructional video. Week 15. So before we get into it, just fair warning, there will be dogs barking, there will be cats meowing, it is chaos, things are unhinged right now in the house. I don't know if it's because it's cold or what, so my apologies in advance. All right, so week 15, we are like so close to the finish line. So we have already hopefully completed the food journal collection. You've submitted that. You do have a 48-hour grace period until Tuesday at midnight. So make sure that you've done everything you can do to get the best possible grade on that assignment because it is a large assignment in addition to this week, which is our multimedia project, right? So let me go ahead and jump into the content area so we can see what's going on this week. So if we look at the week 15 module, you can do it. I do want you to know that, I've scheduled this in a really specific or in a really intentional way because next week is finals, right? So usually this is, the size of this project is something that you would do or submit or present during finals, but I know that that's just a really hectic time. I know that you have other things on your plate. I don't want this to be an assignment that you just kind of check off a list to get to the next thing because you have all of these stressors in the week. So I wanted to do a little bit before that so that you have the energy to put into it and you have time to respond to one another, and look at each other's projects and admire them and appreciate them. But also so that, the heavy lifting for this course should be done this week so that next week we have one smaller assignment. It's just wrapping up the course. We're just reflecting on things so that you can put all your energy and efforts into all the other finals and things that you have going on. So that is why our schedule is, what it is. So just something to keep in mind, just a little bit more energy for this course, right? So this week, make sure you've submitted the food journal collection within the 48-hour grace period. I do want to offer just a brief reminder. If you submitted your food journal 2 or food journal 3, really the food journal 3, right? Because that's ultimately what you're revising for the final collection. You have feedback to view in Turnitin, right? If you look at Turnitin and you're not seeing any blue typed up comments from me, then you are not looking at it correctly because I have feedback for everybody. Okay, you should be seeing that. I can see if you've looked at that feedback or not. Cat drama all the time. I can see if you've opened and looked at that feedback. So just be aware that my process when I go to look at your final food journal collection, I open, I have a bigger screen. I open your food journal 3. I look at all the feedback I've offered there. And then I open right next to it the food journal collection and I look to see if you've updated, if you've revised, if you've taken my suggestions to heart, if you've done the work. So make sure you're looking at the feedback and make sure that you're formatting properly. Use the template. Okay. So this week is the multimedia project, right? So you're watching the instructional video. Make sure you're reviewing the multimedia project plan feedback. This is something that I have offered everybody who submitted a plan in D2L. The feedback is in D2L, not Turnitin. So if you have questions about that, so if you go to course activities at the top and look at your assignments, right, this is what it generally will look like. So you'll see the multimedia project plan and the feedback will be over in this area versus for, say, food journal 3, you'll want to follow the steps to view that feedback and turn it in. If you have questions about that, there is a link here that provides all the instructions. I mean, I posted this last week as well, So just make sure that you're looking at the feedback, you're following all of, you have to agree to the Turnitin license, etc. So just make sure you're doing all that, please, please. Okay, so I offered feedback for all of the multimedia projects, and per usual, 99% of you are submitting these ideas that are moving in the right direction. You have clearly identified the source from our course that has kind of inspired you. So Ron Finley or Amy Choi's article, or Jennifer Lee's video, or Sean Sherman, or Sam Cass. You let me know what inspired you, and then you also let me know what you were going to create. So I'm going to create a PowerPoint that is, going to contain images of me recreating this, comfort food. Or I'm going to create a PowerPoint that has information about the history of this specific food, and I will cite all my sources and da-da-da-da-da. The only time I had trouble is if people, maybe said, I'm going to create a PowerPoint, but then didn't tell me like what's in the PowerPoint. Yeah. So please make sure that you're reviewing the guidelines and reviewing the feedback that I've offered. And just an added kind of reminder, and I put this in all the feedback, if you are using Amy Choi's article in your research-based paragraph, or if it is inspiration for your project, you need to be absolutely sure you are correctly citing her work. And you are either crediting the sources that she's used, and you're doing that properly, or you're separating those ideas from Choi's own ideas as the author. I cannot stress that enough. This is one of those things where I love her article so much because I think it's so informative. I think it's such a great example of how to utilize research to support your ideas, but it causes so many problems in this class because of MLA. And that's because MLA is not always easy, right? But I want you to envision some random audience member who has not read Amy Choi's work, and I want you to envision that person reading through your ideas and easily being able to distinguish between her ideas as the author, the original author, and the sources that she's utilized, right? We need to be ethically researching and writing. And that just means being absolutely aware of the kinds of research that we're using, okay? There are lots of examples in the MLA Help module. Yeah. Okay. All right, so multimedia project plans, make sure you're taking a look at those because your multimedia project is due on Thursday. I am scrolling down because you can review the project video itself here, as well as the guidelines, which I actually go into detail in the video, and then that's the link for viewing feedback. Here is the link to where you will actually share your multimedia project, which is in a discussion post, right? So I can't stress enough, please follow the directions here. Put your name as the subject line, right? If you'd like to include pronouns, that'd be awesome. You need to make sure that you're putting the 3 paragraphs in the text box there. Those don't have to be in your PowerPoint. They don't have to be anywhere but in that text box, right? If you're using outside sources, we need citations for all of those, right? In the paragraphs, right? If you're using outside sources in, say, a PowerPoint because your PowerPoint is informational, then just make sure that you've included a works cited at the end of the actual PowerPoint, right? The only time I can think of where a link should be included in the text box instead of actually uploading a file or document is if you've created a video and that video is on YouTube and there's a link for that, right? There should not be a Google Docs link to a slideshow. There should not be a link to Prezi. Upload your document, upload your file. And the reason that I really try to drive this idea home is that you are responsible, right, for making sure that your project is viewable, right? You need to post your work and then go in and double check that it's a file that can be downloaded. It's a link that can be opened. And you need to make sure that you are going back to your post after you've posted it to see if any of your colleagues have jumped in and said, hey, I can read your paragraphs, but this link to your video won't open. Or, hey, I can read your paragraphs, but I've tried to open your PowerPoint and it's not opening. Okay. It's easier for us to access your work when you have actually uploaded it as a file type that Turnitin or that D2L allows, right? D2L does not open pages. It does not open anything other than the basics or, you know, in the Microsoft Word suite, right? So just be very careful. I'm not going to have the time to hunt you down after all your colleagues have responded and said, hey, I can't open this. I'm not going to be able to hunt you down to finally try to get that assignment. The assignment's due when it's due, right? And we have the time frame because I need that time to go in and grade them. And you need time to look at other people's work and offer that, you know, that feedback on their ideas. We've got this. We've got this. You can do this. I know you can. So make sure that you're following all the instructions that are laid out right here, please. And if you want to review some of the guidelines in terms of how the rubric is structured, it's very basic and straightforward, you know, so it reflects what you'll see in the project guidelines in general. So you just start a new thread and go from there. Okay, I mean, that's essentially it for this week. Big grades, right? Big grades that have the opportunity to really change your grade overall for the better if you have followed all the guidelines and you have met all the expectations, right? So again, this is your opportunity to earn the best possible grade, not only for that food journal collection that has the 48-hour grace period until Tuesday at midnight, right? But for the multimedia project as well. So pretty big grades, but you've done so much of the work for these things already, not only with the multimedia project plan, but with all the food journal, you know, preparation work that you did for the collection. So push for a little bit more energy, and I know we've got this. And I just can't wait to see your projects, right? I was reading through all of these project plans and going, oh, this is going to be so fun, or this is going to be so nostalgic, or, you know, this person is really digging into something very sentimental and close to their heart. So that will be really rewarding to see. I can't wait. This is why I end the semester with a project like this, because it's hopefully fun for you to create and to finalize, but it's a lot of fun for me to grade. So let me know what you need. If you need to touch base with me, we will have regular office hours this week. And if you need to meet outside of those, just shoot me an email so we can schedule something. You also need to make sure that you're keeping an eye on your grades, right? Don't wait until the last minute to question any of the concerns or, you know, anything related to your grades, right? Those are things we need to take care of now rather than the day before grades are due. Right? So keep an eye on your grades in general and let me know what you need this week. So take care and good luck.